Welcome in to Greenville Grit. This is Greenville Residents in Touch with your hosts, Terry Williams and Michael Overton. This is the show that keeps you connected and in touch with the issues that affect what's happening in your community. Greenville Grit is sponsored by Greenville Toyota, the Overton Group, Solar Creations, and Bill Clark Homes. Now with your hosts for Greenville Grit, here's Terry Williams and Michael Overton.
Welcome to our show today, Greenville Grit. I'm Terry Williams.
And I am Michael Overton. Terry, good to see you this afternoon.
And you.
Want to get into our sponsors. We got a great show today. Chief Hassan Aden is back with us. He was our first guest, and I don't know how many shows we've had, but he's back to give us some updates, and we're going to get him on the show and really get into the meat of what's going on in the downtown area and I guess the grid and other areas around, and so maybe some of the initiatives that they've got going on.
That's right. Yep, we had told him when he was our guest the first time that we wanted to have him back to update us periodically. Yep. So we really appreciate him coming on today.
I was glad we didn't scare them so bad that they want to come back.
That's
so
right.
That's good. Well, before we get him on, we do want to thank our sponsors. Bill Clark Homes. Why don't you take that, Terry?
Exactly. If you need a new home, Bill Clark is an excellent builder. Got a lot of new construction going on throughout the county, and they can help you with a new home anytime.
That's right. Also, the Overton Group, that's me.
That's right.
We are the real estate and property management professionals. We focus on commercial real estate, but we also do property management. I have an office in Greenville and in New Bern. We do business brokerage, and we do have a residential arm headed up by Michelle Connors. So got a lot going on there. And Greenville Toyota, if you're looking for a new Toyota or Scion vehicle, or you need a new used car, go see the guys at Greenville Toyota. I bought a lot of cars from them. Right. Great set of cars that they've got there. They know what they're doing.
That's right. We so appreciate their support. We couldn't do it
without
without them.
We couldn't do the show.
That's
so we're going to take a quick commercial break, come back with Chief Hassan Aden, and enjoy the next 20 minutes with us. Welcome back to the Greenville Grid. I am Michael Overton, along with my co-host here, Terry Williams. Terry, we have Chief Hassan Aden back on the show with us. He was here about 3 months ago. And I know we got a lot to talk about, but one thing I read in the paper today, and it's been in the paper really since last Friday when the event took place, but the New Bern police officer that got killed, 22 years old, to lose his life, and to see what I'm most proud of really is what you guys have done to support someone from another county in a department, but not just in leading their procession out of town, but also offering to support while they had their funeral, I believe, tomorrow or Friday. So, Friday. Tell us a little bit about, what's going on there.
Well, I got a call at about 12:45 Saturday morning, and it was Chief Toussaint Summers, the chief of the New Bern Police Department. And a lot of people don't know, but he and I came up through the ranks in the D.C. area together.
Okay, I did not know that.
He retired as chief of the Herndon, Virginia Police Department, which is near Alexandria, Virginia, and came and became the chief about a year before I came down. So I had an instant partnership with him, and he kind of showed me the way when I got here to East Carolina. So he called me and told me what had happened and that they were en route to Greenville. But Greenville police had already been notified to begin blocking off intersections because they were bringing Officer Thalman and Officer Wester in by ambulance because of the weather. The airlift couldn't occur, so they decided to bring them in by land. And so we assisted at that point, but I went to the hospital and provided support for Chief Toussaint Summers. And we've offered a lot of aid to the New Bern police family in the city of New Bern. They're grieving. It's a horrific, senseless incident, and they would do the same thing for us. We have a really tight law enforcement community here, both in our county and Pitt County with all of the jurisdictions here, but also it extends throughout the state.
Yeah.
Right. I know I noticed, and I asked you this a little bit earlier, how it came to be that he was giving his press conference in front of the Greenville emblem, and that's when you were saying that you had a connection there and you were just offering the support because he was here.
Exactly. We gave them a workspace. Right. We have some staff assigned to assist them in critical incident stress debriefing. There's a lot that happens when you have a line of duty death. For a city, it's a very, very traumatic incident. You've got to. There's a lot of things that you've got to do and think about that aren't in your everyday repertoire, and we're helping them kind of focus on those things that are ancillary, but that also need to happen while they focus on the main mission of honoring Officer Thalman.
Well, thank you guys for what y'all are doing. That's very, very. This is awesome.
I know. I think it was particularly sad that he had been 2 tours in Afghanistan and then comes home to serve even further as a policeman, and then this had to happen. It's very, very sad.
It is. That's my. I think that is one of the things that worry me the most.
Right.
Is I hire these young men and women, and oftentimes I just hired a 20-year-old. It's almost like their parents are entrusting us with taking care of their kids.
Yeah.
And he had also done his training at Beaufort County, I understand, too. So he was sort of still felt like one of us. There were so many connections. So
absolutely.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Well, I know you've got some things you want to share with our own police department and some positive things that are going on. So if you want to just talk to us about that.
Where do you want to start?
I think one of the very, very exciting changes that are in line with our strategic plan is the way that we handle the downtown area.
Right.
When I first got here, crime obviously citywide was one of my focus points, but there was also a focus point in the way that the GPD had traditionally handled the downtown area in terms of the late night events and the drinking establishments and some of the problems that came with that. But we peeled layers a lot further back than that and looked at the entire uptown area with extensions into the university area and West Greenville, because we think that is really the way to focus in on it, not just the business district, but also some of the residential areas that surround that business district.
Right.
And we developed a Center City unit, which has been implemented, and it's working already. It's already established. About a month ago, they went into action.
What are their boundaries? Where are they exactly located? The
boundaries are all of Uptown, and then it extends well into the university area and well into West Greenville.
Okay.
So, but the unique part of this unit, it's not just police to occupy a street corner and try to reduce crime that way, because that we know doesn't work. When you leave, it comes right back. You have to really dig a lot deeper. So what we did was we created a unit that has a 3-part mission. 1 is crime prevention, 2 is crime reduction, and the 3rd is establishing conditions that enable and foster economic development. The 3rd one is the part that's unique about this. There are no police units that focus on economic development. It just doesn't exist. We looked for training.
Right.
We looked for other models. They're not there. We've talked to the U.S. Department of Justice, specifically the Community-Oriented Policing Office, which is well-funded and very active, and they had not heard of a unit with this particular mission. So they're very interested, and it's developing into sort of a new model of community policing that addresses a lot of the commercial issues, which you don't really have.
Right.
Community policing, generally, it's very vague, and it doesn't really ever talk about commercial. It's mostly residential and crime reduction.
Well, I've never heard policing and economic development used together, so give us a description of this.
It's something that's not talked about much, but if business owners don't feel safe, if customers don't feel safe going to businesses and providing the customership, if you will, they're not coming, and the businesses aren't going to thrive. So how do you set those conditions? Those conditions are often set by police, and police need training to get in there and really do the work that's needed, which is problem solving at the actual level of the store, problem solving at the block level, community dialogue, asking business owners, what is it that you need? Asking customers, how do you feel when you're here? How's the lighting? So it's really comprehensive. It's just, we're working with 2 universities now to try to help us get some training established, because we do think that this is going to be something that a lot of other cities are going to want to implement.
So this is like your officers are on the ground. Are they walking in businesses, meeting people
Yes.
during the day while these businesses are opening? and just making sure that everybody has their questions answered
Exactly.
about safety
So
or anything else.
Safety, parking,
Right.
lighting,
Okay.
all sorts of issues that really were never discussed. Police, when we were called in the past, particularly the GPD, was for a problem.
Right.
We're not there for problems. We are there way ahead of problems.
Right.
But we're looking at all sorts of things that may be code related. It's community outreach. They're on foot, they're on segways, they're in marked, they're in unmarked cars, they're on bikes. And it's really just a shift, and people are loving it. I'm getting a lot of feedback. Well, most people are loving it. Some people are not.
Well,
Well,
feeling your presence in that area is what's going to change the perception, which we talked about before, of feeling safe when you're there.
Exactly.
Well, in our first meeting with you too, one of the things that really rung with me was you said, policing that the residents of Greenville are the customers.
They are.
And that is such a huge shift from what, I'm going to call it government jobs, but public servant, public jobs normally do is they don't treat, there's no such thing as customer service. So I think with you doing that and just engaging that and building those relationships was seen to me just a profound impact on crime just from the start, being proactive about it.
Right.
Well, I tell you, it changes the whole paradigm. It changes the whole relationship when you view people that call you, when you view people that you arrest as customers. They are your customers. They're in our charge.
Right.
The ones that we arrest, we need to treat them a certain way. Not that it's soft policing, but we need to treat them in a certain way. And then people that call you, those are the people that we exist to serve. I mean, the old saying of protect and serve, it's still on a lot of police cars and a lot of communities in America, but I don't think that it's lived up to. We are not putting it on our cars. We're doing better than that. We're showing people that, we are here to protect and serve.
Well, let's talk about some of the accomplishments in the last 3 months since our last meeting. I believe the paper had last week about, I think you made the statement that crime was down in, I believe, was it the university area?
I think so. But share
what,
those.
what kind of results have you seen just over the last, since you started 3-4 months ago? How are things going? Give us an update on that.
Violent crime is down. So we've
That's
got
good.
rape, robbery, aggravated assault, homicide, down exponentially. Homicide is down 100% from
Wow.
this time last year. That's very deliberate. There's other implications. Some is weather related, but we've done things like the shift, and I talked about this last time, the shift of our gang unit from a detective unit to a upfront on the streets unit. They're making a huge impact on the street. In the university area specifically, what really was the biggest impact on crime there were burglaries. Burglaries are down almost 30% in that area, and that's because of a lot of the work that the center unit is doing in conjunction with several other police units that have what's called a PPI operation, which is basically it's a property crime reduction initiative. So we're going through, we're looking at lighting, we're changing how things look and feel. We're putting, we're helping residents get alarms. We're just doing things that are non-traditional police activities, but that basically harden the target. And by us being there so much on foot in cars, it makes it very unattractive for a burglar to come in because they are going to be detected. So that's something I'm really proud of.
Right.
And what I'm most proud of about that is that it was officer driven. It wasn't something that my command staff and I dreamt up in a closed command meeting or in a vision meeting. Officers went to their supervisor and said, this is a real problem here. We keep going here for burglaries. We need to do something about it. And they did. They came up with this plan. They asked for funding. And amazingly, it didn't cost much.
Right.
A lot of that stuff is either donated or it's just our patrol strategy shifts. We have to pay the officers anyway, but we're just doing things differently. But it's ground roots, awesome work by our entry-level officers.
Does the university police department help you all or back you up when you need it, that sort of thing? How do you all work together?
It's an excellent relationship. I sat on a panel that hired Chief Gerald Lewis, and he and I are in constant communication. Very, very smart guy. We literally talk pretty much every day.
Right.
So they are. We're looking at agreements that will extend their jurisdiction to help us better police large complexes where they're predominantly university students, so that when we're really busy on a Saturday night and we don't have a car to send there immediately, we can send one of ours and one ECU police car there to jointly handle the incident. So it's a better response. That partnership will result in a better response for the customer. Exactly. And the other thing that they are really interested in, and we just sent over a MOU, a memorandum of agreement, or memorandum of understanding. They want to place someone full time on our Center City unit because of the relationship between Uptown and those issues, and the vast number of students that need to be protected when they come down, and when they get home, when they're going home. So right now we're still negotiating that, but they will look and feel like GPD. The only difference will be the patch. The training will be exactly the same, and the mission will be exactly the same.
That's what I was going to say. If you all have to have the same vision, your boundaries touch and overlap, so you'd have to have the same vision of what you want to accomplish.
They do, and I think historically, a lot of the jurisdictional issues, those start at the very top of the agencies. People saying, "This is mine." We definitely do not feel that way. I view them as a force multiplier. The ECU police is a fully internationally accredited, very, very effective police agency.
Right.
Now, I heard you mention lighting earlier, and I believe we even talked about it 3 months ago. Give us some update on the results of lighting. I think in our conversation before you came on, there was a certain number of lights out that you guys have been pretty aggressive on getting back going, and there's no doubt lighting helps deter crime. So, quick update on lighting.
It does. We when I first got here, I worked a lot at night. My family wasn't here, so I was working pretty much day and night. And when I was driving around in neighborhoods, learning the city, I noticed that it was dark. And initially, I thought it's dark because of maybe some antiquated light bulbs. Some infrastructure needs, maybe they weren't at the prescribed 150-foot, intermittent lighting segments. But as we went through, I learned that a lot of our lights were just out, and there was no real mechanism for reporting them. So we started to incentivize having our officers report lights. And to date, we're probably close to 500 lights that have been turned back on.
In how long? 3 months?
No, probably the last 6 weeks.
6 weeks,
Wow.
500 lights. Wow.
But they're working hard, and basically it's
that's
just a
great,
shift in their strategy when they're because if you're in an environment long enough, and if you're on your beat long enough, you lose sight that light's out.
Right.
It just becomes part of the landscape. So we refocused that, and now they're
That's awesome.
reporting them at record numbers.
Well, I know the city budget's coming up, and Terry and I are going to be digging into that over the next several weeks. Is there, when it comes to staffing, do you guys, is there a certain number or amount of population, certain number of officers to a certain size population that you do? Are we at above, below the average in terms of our current staffing for the police department?
There is, and there's one way that we measure that the FBI basically says that this is the right way to, give or take a few officers, the right way to staff a city, and we're exactly on. I haven't had to request any additional officers, and I'm really glad about that because there's other departments that are really suffering budget-wise. You want to try to not compete with others, especially since public safety is the number one issue in the city, based on surveys and based on everyone that I talk to. Public safety is it, but I don't want to compete with other city departments and their budgets to get more officers unless I have to. And I'm happy to report that I don't have to fight that fight, and we are appropriately budgeted. I appreciate the city manager's support in that, and we're happy to continue serving with the right resources. When we dip below, and if we don't have the right resources, to me it's like a menu. If you can afford this, this is what you get. If you can't afford that, and you need to go from a steak to something less than that, then that's what you get.
I have a question. The lights that you said that were out, was that over the entire city? Just any and everywhere that they see lights are out, you're
Yes.
working? It's not. Sometimes people think we tend to concentrate more on Center City and University and West Greenville, and there's a lot more to our city than that.
It's
And
citywide.
Right.
It's the whole city, so all officers that go out on the street now are looking at the
Right.
lights.
Okay.
So
That's amazing. 500
I know,
lights.
it is amazing.
Why
It's
don't
probably-
you mention the book? before we go
Absolutely.
to break?
And we'll go to break, and then he may have a few other things that he
Absolutely.
wants to mention. But you had given me this book, the last time you visited, and we ran out of time, didn't have time to mention it, and I just think that's sort of important. If you don't mind talking about that a little bit.
this is really, when you get down to customer service, you think about all sorts of things, but our focus on crime prevention has to start with young people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that through the history here, there was some distrust, and it may have translated to some of the kids. So we're doing a lot of work in a lot of the elementary schools. I participate in several reading clubs and homework clubs after school, but which led me to this book, which is The Little People's Guide to the Big World. And this book is one that we provide to these reading groups. We have purchased hundreds of these with seized drug assets. So it's not taxpayer dollars.
Right.
It's drug money that we have lawfully seized, and we're turning that money, those illicit profits, into something good. So this book has very important life lessons that are designed for a caretaker and a child to share and read together, because we know, research says that is the bonding time that impacts the kids the most, when you can share a book in that kind of time, a book and a meaningful conversation. So this provides 50 pages and 50 stories. They deal with things such as strangers, getting sick, loss of a pet, dangerous things, sportsmanship, hurt feelings, being different, guns, adoption, getting lost. So it's things that they can read, but the format is, these are 2 stories. It's a simple, very easy to read, 1-page topic.
Now, where can they get the book?
From the police department. And we go out to the schools when we read. We're bringing this. Dr. Seuss is my favorite. All the kids in town know it. So that's what I read. I read
Right.
Oh, the Places You'll Go to a lot of the kids. But
So
I'm
again,
always
the
carrying
name
these.
is The Little People's Guide to the Big World. If you guys are interested in one, go to the police department and they'll
And you
have
can
some for
actually
you.
provide those, like to a school or a classroom.
Absolutely.
And they can, so that the kids can take them home, share them with their parents.
Well,
and-
we are going to have to go to a
Yeah.
quick commercial break. We'll
good.
come right back, wrap it up. Thank you again for being on with us, Chief Aiden. We'll come back with Chief Aiden in 2 minutes. Welcome back to the Greenville Grit. I am Michael Overton, along with my co-host Terry Williams and Chief Hassan Aiden. Again, thank you, Chief Aiden, for coming back on. Before we wrap the show up, one thing I wanted to mention, it did have in the paper, for Alexander Thalman, the fallen police officer in the city of New Bern, you can go to any First Citizens Bank location, make a donation to help support the family in paying for funeral expenses, and just put it in the name of Alexander Thalman. Is there anything else I need to add to that, or is that, I think that's pretty much the instructions I saw.
Yeah, that's, and they would appreciate it very much. But we want to reiterate that our thoughts and prayers are with this family.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to wrap up with? Any other big items, exciting things going on that you want to
Things are
tell?
looking great in Greenville, and we're working towards a lot of our goals as established in the strategic plan, and we're just looking forward to a great spring and great interactions.
Now, you've got a couple of events
Yeah.
coming up you wanted to
We
mention
really
too,
appreciate
Terry.
you sharing with us, too.
Thank you.
Yes, I did want to just announce a couple of things coming up. This Saturday is Touch a Truck. It's in the parking lot behind the mall. It's from 10 to 1, and it's just a very great, I think this might be the 3rd or 4th year they're doing it. It's a really great time to take your children out and let them see all the different kinds of vehicles, emergency vehicles, regular trucks, and that sort of thing. Also, Pirate Fest is coming up, April 11th and 12th. Just put it on your calendar. And next week's guest.
Next week's guest, we have Jim Blunt and the current, new SGA president,
Right.
Michael King. And guess what? We're going
From
to be discussing
ECU,
the
yeah.
3 unrelated versus 4 rule. No, we're not going to ask you anything about that today, Chief Aiden, but we're going to get into that
That's
next
right.
week with Jim and Michael and kind of get the student's perspective. Because
That's right.
We talk about all of these perspectives of landlords versus homeowners, but we've got 30,000 students in this town.
That's right.
And he represents them. And
That's
so it's going to
exactly
be really
right.
interesting to hear.
I think it'll be a good conversation.
Well, it's going to be interesting. And,
Well,
and that vote's coming up in the
April
middle of
10th.
April. So let's see. If you want to send us a comment or a question, you can, and especially if you have one for Jim or Michael next week, send it to greenvillegrit@gmail.com. We are on repeating this show, obviously, tonight, but Friday night at 6:30, Saturday morning at 9:30, and
That's
you can
right.
go to greenvilleheadlines.com and see the video. So thank you for joining us. Thank you again, Chief Aiden, for coming on. Hopefully you'll come back in 3 months. We didn't scare you too bad. And Terry and I will see you next week.